Her name carries the weight of silence and the promise of destiny. The empire of Persia stretches wide, palaces of marble and gold gleam beneath the sun, banquet halls thunder with music and laughter, and the voice of a king echoes through 1,000 chambers. But beneath the splendor, shadows move, whispers of pride, schemes of hatred. The fate of a people hangs by a thread, and in the middle of it all, a young girl, an orphan, a hidden voice, her skin kissed by the desert sun, her eyes deep with unspoken questions, her heart trembling in the quiet of exile. She never sought a throne, she never asked for a crown. Yet destiny is not always chosen, it sometimes chooses us. Have you ever felt small in a world too vast? Have you ever wondered if your hidden life, your quiet tears, could ever change anything? Esther knew that feeling. Esther carried that silence. But in her silence, something greater stirred. A hand unseen, a plan unshaken, a whisper, for such a time as this. This is not only her story, it is a story of courage in the face of fear, of faith when God's name seems absent, of a people saved through the risk of one. This is the Bible story of Esther. In the days of King Xerxes, who ruled over 120 provinces from India to Ethiopia, his power stretched across the known world. From his throne in Susa, he ruled with authority. Xerxes held a lavish feast, 180 days long. Nobles, princes, and military leaders from across the empire came to witness his glory. Meanwhile, Queen Vashti also held a banquet for the women of the palace. On the 7th day of the feast, when the king was merry with wine, he commanded his servants to bring Queen Vashti before him, to display her beauty before the nobles and princes. But Queen Vashti refused to come. She would not be paraded before them, and the king burned with anger. The king's pride was wounded before all the nobles of Persia. In his drunken fury, he turned to his advisers, demanding counsel. "What shall be done to Queen Vashti?" he asked, "because she has not obeyed the command of the king." The advisers replied, "If word of her refusal spreads, the women of the empire will rise up against their husbands. Disrespect will spread through every household. Let the king issue a royal decree, that Vashti be removed from her place as queen, and that her royal crown be given to another." Now there was in Susa a young woman named Esther. She was a Jew, the daughter of exiles, an orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai. Her beauty was radiant, but her spirit was humble. She never sought a throne, she never asked for a crown. When the decree went out, Esther was taken, from the quiet of her home to the courts of the king. She entered the palace of Persia, a place of wealth beyond imagination, but also of danger, for no one knew she was a Jew. Among all the women, Esther found favor. Hegai, the keeper of the women, looked upon her kindly. She was given special food, fine clothing, and attendants to care for her. And when Xerxes looked upon her, she found favor in his sight more than all the others. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen in the place of Vashti. But still Esther kept her secret. She did not reveal her people or her kindred. Mordecai, Esther's cousin, he uncovered a plot by 2 of the king's guards to assassinate Xerxes. Through Esther, Mordecai's warning reached the king, and the conspirators were put to death. The account was written in the chronicles of the king, but Mordecai was not rewarded. Not yet. Haman, a powerful and arrogant noble who was elevated above all other officials. The king commanded that all should bow before Haman. Mordecai, however, refused to bow, for he would not give such honor to a man, especially one who despised his people. Furious, Haman plotted not only to destroy Mordecai but to annihilate all Jews in the empire. He cast lots, called Purim, to choose the day, then persuaded the king to issue a decree authorizing the extermination of the Jewish people. When Mordecai learned of the decree, he mourned in sackcloth and ashes and urged Esther to plead with the king. Esther hesitated, for anyone who approached the king uninvited risked death unless the king extended his golden scepter. But Mordecai sent her a message. "Do not think that you will escape in the king's house any more than all the other Jews, for if you remain silent at this time, Deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. But who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" These words stirred Esther's heart. She resolved to act, even at the risk of her life. She fasted for 3 days with her attendants and asked the Jewish people to do the same. Then, clothed in royal garments, she entered the king's court. The king extended his golden scepter, sparing her life. Instead of immediately asking for her people's rescue, Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet. At the feast, she invited them again to another banquet the next day, keeping her true request hidden for the moment. That night the king could not sleep. He ordered the royal records to be read to him and discovered the account of Mordecai's earlier loyalty in exposing the assassination plot. Realizing Mordecai had never been rewarded, the king asked Haman how a man the king delighted to honor should be treated. Thinking the king meant him, Haman suggested dressing the man in royal robes, placing him on the king's horse and parading him through the city with great honor. To his shock, the king ordered Haman to do all this for Mordecai. Humiliated, Haman obeyed, leading his enemy in honor through the streets. At the second banquet, the king asked Esther her request, promising even half the kingdom. With courage, Esther revealed her identity. "If I have found favor in your eyes, O king, let my life be spared, and my people, for we have been sold to destruction and annihilation." The king was enraged and asked, "Who is this man who dares to do such a thing?" Esther pointed. "The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman." Haman, terrified, begged for mercy, but the king's fury was unstoppable. One of the attendants mentioned that Haman had built a gallows for Mordecai. The king ordered Haman to be executed on it. Mordecai was elevated to Haman's position of power, and Esther again pleaded with the king. Though the first decree could not be revoked, the king allowed Esther and Mordecai to write a new one. The Jews were given the right to defend themselves against their enemies. Esther, once a humble orphan, became the courageous queen who saved her people. Through wisdom, bravery, and faith, she stood in the gap for such a time as this, and her story has been celebrated for generations as a testimony of courage, providence, and hope.
Kindly subscribe and hit the notification bell, so when we post a new video, you will be notified.